All right. Well, Tracey, welcome to the Unfiltered Healing Podcast.
Thank you, Dr. Rachel. It is my pleasure to be on the podcast with you. As I told you many years ago, I am a fan. I am a fan and I love your work. I love what you do. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're honored to have you on today. You've been a huge influence in my life, not only as a mentor, as a coach, as a leader. But, one of the things I love about what you do is that you're just a wealth of information.
Thank
And so I don't even know what's all going to happen today on this podcast, but I know it's going to be fire. I know that it's going to bless a lot of people because of the knowledge that you attain to. And so
thank
thank you for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule to bless this community, to bless myself. So we thank you today as well. Um,
you. Yeah, well,
Now, this
excited.
podcast, this podcast, we dig into many different topics regarding health. So we don't just bring on physicians that talk just about the physical aspects of health, but also emotional mindset patterns, strongholds, and also strategies that lead people to prosperity and success in their health journey for complete health. And it's hugely important to expose people to these strategies, to the focus, the accountability to move people forward. And we're definitely going to get those pearls of wisdom today. So it's going to be exciting. Now, as we dive into the topic of metacognition, which you can explain what even that is in a few moments for our listeners, can you explain or just share a bit to our audience for those that may not know you? What's kind of your background, I guess you would say, in this topic today? Like, is there a certain personal story? Is it kind of a journey that led you to this higher level of thinking? Has it always been this way for you, or was it a process?
Well, that's a good question. I think we all have a certain level of metacognition on on our own. As we grow up, we talk to ourselves, so we don't realize that talking to yourself is a thinking about your thinking. You're going deeper in your realm of thinking. How am I thinking about this? How am I feeling about this? So meta is the deep under recesses of your thinking cognition. So you're thinking at a level, but you're really thinking about your thinking. And so I think I've always been a person who thinks about my thinking. We say we have a conversation and then we walk away and we go, you know what I should have said? Well, that's thinking about your thinking. That's going into a deeper place and a deeper recess of your mind. And you're going, okay, but the next time I'm in this situation, I'm going to say this. The next time I'm in this situation, I'm going to do this. And so we've kind of had this, it's a natural, I think, inclination, but we have never been taught to use it intentionally. And so I learned to use it intentionally when I started my coaching company, my coaching business. And my coaching business is a journey all by itself. But the way I started it was literally I was invited to meet with business leaders. I'm an ordained minister, so I'd be on the road speaking as an itinerant minister. And they business leaders would say, can I talk to you? I want to talk to you about my business. And I would sit down with them and say, yeah, let's talk. And so as we were having lunch and we're talking and they're sharing and they're breaking down whatever they're dealing with in their business, I have this thinking that's going on, this deep recess level of thinking. And I'm thinking about their thinking, I'm thinking about my thinking. And then I realize, okay, so I'm getting some thoughts here, some inspired thoughts, some inspiration from this. You meditate in a certain space, you'll get revelation. You'll gain insight. And so I'm meditating with them in this conversation. In the Hebrew, it's called like midrashing, going back and forth and just communicating. And so I have this communication going on, and then there's this other thought that starts to roll in my mind. And so I start sharing it. And then they go, okay, I'm going to try that. That sounds great. They go and do it. And then they come back with a report that was very successful. And then they introduce me into to other spaces, other spheres of influence, and other friends. So that's how it all started, is working through thoughts with people, coaching, right? Helping people think about their thinking, helping people think about their strategies, and helping them dive into a deeper place so that they can gain the results that they want. That I'm a results coach, so they need results. So we want to make sure that they get the results that they want. So that's kind of how it started. And then I started to research, neurologistic programming and training, and went into deeper places, deeper dive of the brain and of the mind.
Now, That thought process that you just explained, was there someone that kind of helped you initially with those things, or was it just a process of like, this is just who I am and I'm gonna learn how to like cognitively work with this?
Well, it was really a discovery of working helping other people. I didn't even think about it for myself at first. It was like, okay, this is kind of
Mhm.
what they're doing. And then I found there was a gentleman who created a something called Pacific Institute. Pacific Institute was the first kind of coaching at the neural level, helping you understand how your brain works in success. And I got a hold of his courses and I dug into it, just really just ate it and devoured it. And then I find that other people like you know, Tony Robbins and others, they have also gone through the same training. Well, that's where as a
Mhm.
coach, you're trying to help someone and you want to help them think about their thinking. So how do you do that? How do you explain to them your thinking has to change? You have to go deeper in the way that you're thinking. The level and the grid that you think on is not enough to get you to the level that you want to go to. So we have to either chalk it up to say you don't have the efficacy to go forward, the power to move forward, the power to bring about change, because you don't have the ability to think deeper. You don't have the ability to think on another level. And so, well, we had to
Mhm.
explain to them, you have to develop this. And how do you do that? How do you tell a person uh, you want to get to this level of being a millionaire, a billionaire, but you don't think like that? How do I help you? So then I had to go and discover that. And then in that, I discovered for myself, hey, I need to learn this myself. I need to use this on myself, right? Physician heal thyself. So I turned to me and I said, I need to use this. And I still do. I things that I learned for clients, I still use on myself because we all need to go to our next
Oh yeah,
level.
100%. 100%. If we aren't doing it, we can't really train someone else, you know? I mean, we
Exactly.
could try,
Exactly.
but
Exactly.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
brilliant. One pearl that, you know, you teach on and that we need to learn through a segue through what you were talking about too is something called auto-suggestion.
Yeah.
And that is a wonderful tool to help us achieve and stay the course kind of through anything through our life. Can you maybe expand on this principle a little bit? Because it's also brilliant how you explain it.
Sure. Auto suggestion is really, really powerful because it's exactly what it sounds like. I'm going to put my brain is designed, my thinking is designed to work on certain grooves. So if you realize your mind, your brain is mapping something all the time. If you do the same thing over and over and over, your brain actually maps that, and it becomes like a trail. When I was a kid, I grew up in Puyallup, Washington. Puyallup, Washington is like a real foresty area. Then now it's developed, but a real foresty area. And so there was a place through the woods that my friends and I would cut through. And you know, first time we're going through, we're getting nettles and sticker bushes and everything all on us, and it's very uncomfortable. And it's a trek. It's hard. It's difficult. So, but we do it. We know it's better to pay this price to go that way than to go all the way around to where we want to go. So then the next day we would do it, and the week after that, and the week after that, and we just did it. And 1 year later, maybe not as long, but after a period of time of all of our friends going that way, it created a groove that anyone who wanted to follow that path, if I just said, hey, go over there and just follow that path, you'll see this little break in the woods and you'll just follow that. You'll see the follow the road there. It's not really a road, but it's a path that we have trodden down. And when we're thinking about our thinking and then we take this thought and we go, okay, now I need to lock in on that. That's exactly what I want to do. I want to now go to this next level. I want to be a millionaire. So if I'm working with someone and they want to be there, you know, they're making $250,000 a year and they want to make $1 million a year, then I have to help them think at $1 million a year level. I have to help them think at that lifestyle because we don't really go after the
Mhm.
benefits, we go after the lifestyle. So if we want them to go there, I want them to think about the lifestyle. So I have to build that in the same way that we would make that trek across that forest just to set that path. Well, again, we're not setting the path on purpose. We're setting the path because we have a journey. We have a place that we want to reach. We have a destination. The destination is what makes us go there. So when I find someone that says, okay, I want to be a millionaire, I want to be a billionaire, whatever I want to do, well, and I know where they are, and the thinking at $250,000 is not the same thinking at $1 million. It's not the same. You have to actually change the way you think. because the way you think is
Mhm.
going to develop the kind of values. The values you have are going to develop the beliefs. The beliefs are going to establish the actions. And so when we know that the values, beliefs, and actions are going to be the way that I formulate all that I do to get the results that I want, then I'm going to help them go, okay, now this is the end result. We know the end from the beginning. We know exactly what we want. We want to be a millionaire. Okay, why is it important? Okay, it's important because I want to be able to have more time with my family. Okay, so this is all metacognition. So I'm asking questions that dig deeper, because if I just keep it on the information side, then we're not really getting to our deeper thoughts. You hit deeper thoughts when you have feelings, when you can feel what you're thinking. So if I say, okay, I want to be a millionaire. Great. Why do you want to be a millionaire? Because I'm so tired of being broke. Okay, that's a good start, but we need to give a better reason to that, because that is not the kind of why that makes you feel it. We need you to feel it
Mm.
in your core. We need you to feel it in your emotions. Why? Well, because I want to offer the best life for my family. I want to be able to do more podcasts with Dr. Rachel. I want to be able to spend more time, right? Whatever it is, I want to, and then really giving an emotion to it. People say, Tracey, you get so intense. You, like, right now, I'm trying to calm down a little bit, but you get so intense, you start to talk and you get wild and active, and the realization is because I feel it. And whatever you
Yeah.
feel, it actually causes your actions and your pitch and your tone, everything increases. So you'll find someone who's very monotone, but you give them something that they're very passionate about. There's going to be an increase either in pace, something's going to increase. So we know that we're tapped into their deeper level of thinking at that point, because their emotions are tied to it. Now they can feel it in their bones, they can feel it in their feet, they can feel it. At this point is where I want to now write that groove. I want to start writing. I want to make sure that the journey is worth the 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 achievement. The result is worth the price that they're going to pay to walk on through the nettles and the sticker bushes. You don't know anything about that. Well, you do, because you are from the Northwest. So anyway, so that journey.
I
So
know a
this is where we
thing
have to get into the place. You do know about it.
or two. Yeah.
You get into that place of feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that place of feeling. And so when we get into the place of feeling with them, then we can start the auto suggestion part. Then we can say, okay, this is what we're going to say every day. This is what we're going to do. And the reason we're going to say and do something every day is because it's going to create that path in the wilderness, right? It's going to create that path in the way that we want to go. And instead of walking it every day, we can walk it in our minds, we can walk it in our hearts, and we can walk it in our feelings every single day, and it's
Mhm.
exactly equal to if we've walked it. And I'll share some of that in a moment here. But what we want to do is we
Yeah.
want to use two greatest tools that our brain has been designed to handle. And is open. Literally, our brain is like opens itself up to these tools. And it's to give your mind pictures and to give your mind words. When you give your mind the right pictures and the right words in a consistent way, it is as if you're trotting down the sticker bushes. You're just walking over the limited thinking. You're walking over the debilitating problems, the challenges and excuses, all the reasons. You start walk over it, and you walk over it in such a way that you feel like you're doing it. Now, in my
Mhm.
first book, which I'm actually redoing, is called The Kingmaker now, but it was called the Becoming a Pioneer of Success. It's really about this auto suggestion is about making sure that you give your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit, everything it needs to be at the level of performance that you're supposed to be at. That nothing, no
Mhm.
limiting beliefs are going to get in the way. So I'll let you have another question in a moment. But the limiting beliefs get in the way. It just is
Get in there.
allowing allowing it's allowing your who you're truly to be to come alive by trotting down what was in the way, and to set a path where your brain goes there automatically, right? The goal is to get into a groove. So if you're driving that, if you're going to go on that path and you're on a bike, right? If you're on a bike, you're not hiking, you're on a bike, and you try to ride on the side, the natural groove is going to try to pull you to the center of it, and you're going to find that path, right? And so that happens with your thought processes. When you've trodden
Mhm.
something down in such a level, it starts to cause a groove to go in, and you start to fall into that groove, even though if you're trying to go in by default. So we've seen this when we're going to go somewhere on the weekend. We're not going to work, but we are thinking about other things. And so the deeper thinking, the deep thoughts come alive, and they help us. And instead of going to where we thought we were going to go, we find ourselves getting on the freeway and heading to work. And that's something because that's a repetitive groove that we've created. And so then we're down the road and we're going, oh my goodness, I'm not supposed to be going this way. This is going to work. And then I turn. Well, that's all a part of that auto suggestion. You've created it in the natural, but you can do it in the imagination. You can do it in your emotions. You can do it in your chair at home. So there's research that shows that they've taken uh, people who wanted to increase their free throw. They did an experiment with people. So they took three groups, and the first group they said you go out every day and you shoot free throws. You go and shoot free throws, and let that be your activity. The next group they said I want you to go out and I want you to shoot free throws. I want you to shoot free throws in your mind. I don't want you to actually do the physical work. I want you just to mentally see yourself shooting free throws. And then in the third group, they said, I want you to do nothing on your free throw practice. Well, the first group, and these numbers are about the same in everything that they tested. This first group is about 20% increase on their free throw production. The second group that's meditating is about 18 to 19% increase in their free throw. Again, not physically doing it, but doing it mentally. And every time they do it, if they miss in their mind, they can correct it. Right. So then they are increasing because of the same auto suggestion, giving yourself the right information over and over and over. Right. It's like the GPS, giving yourself the right information. Then the third group, of course, did nothing. They received nothing. Now, bringing it to where you live into the physical, they also took this same process with bicep curls. And so they said, we took a group of three that were going to physically every day do bicep curls and do the curls. The second group was going to go out and just visually imagine themselves in a chair, close their eyes, imagine themselves doing bicep curls. Then the third group, of course, did nothing. So the first group increased somewhere about 14% in their strength. 14%. The second group did not pick up any dumbbells, increased about 13% in their strength. And that strength lasted
Mhm.
over 3 months. So this is all in just giving yourself the right information over and over and over and over. So that's a part of the auto suggestion, making sure that you're with the right thinking, right thinking, giving yourself the right pictures and the right words that allow you to build the grooves so that you get locked in that groove over and over, and the next thing you know, you're stuck in a pattern of success. And that's what we do. We help people get stuck in a pattern of success. So if I'm a physician like you, part of the issue is to help people to do the right things over and over and keep them in that. So after they don't have to, so that they have a better health, not just get cured, but they have better health. So now I want them to do it as we have to set that destination. We have to set the everyday pattern. We have to set the everyday mental pattern. Then, of course, if they do it physically, that even increases even more so. But I'm going to help them build that pattern of what's the lifestyle you want? How healthy do you want to be? How do you want this to be? So we're creating that big picture. We're giving them the why and the feeling because you want to be around for your family. You want your children to be healthy, whatever it is, so they feel it. And then we're going to add words and pictures. Now, when I say words, they're gonna speak it out loud and they're gonna see it. And so anyway, that's I can keep going, but that's the initial the initial conversation on that.
I love it.
Sorry.
I did warn all the listeners that it'd be a lot. So, we're just going with it because this is amazing. Um, what I wanted to add on to just that point that you made is that why it works so well in this process too is because we're built systematically too. And
Yes,
so
we are.
even though like uniquely we have unique things, systematically there are systems that work for us and how we were
Yeah.
designed. And so by
Yes.
using part of what you're saying, a lot of people just don't know, like, this is a set system of how we're designed, and this is how we build that system through the principles in what you're talking about today. And
Exactly.
so that's just a
Exactly.
distinction of bringing that together too.
Yeah.
Um, and
That's beautiful.
oh, yeah, continue.
No, that's beautiful. That's great. And the only thing I would just give a picture of it is you're describing a hard drive or like hardware of a computer and software. So the hardware is designed for the software. It's designed, and all we have to do is put in the right operating system, and that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So, what are some like more specific ways to increase the autopilot so we can use this system? So, you mentioned a couple things about like pictures and words, but I also know that, like, one part that you've said is about like meditating on certain things, but I also know that there's like a right and wrong way to meditate as well. So can you dig into a little bit about why that's also important to really program the system effectively?
Yeah, excellent question. Because meditation for a lot of people is emptying your mind or emptying yourself. Well, that doesn't help in your metacognition or in auto suggestion. I actually, as a spiritual leader, just encourage everyone not to empty yourself. Don't empty your mind of things. Give your mind the right information and allow that information to become a part of you. Nurture it and meditate on it and revolve it and rehearse it and speak it out loud. So meditation is not just but it is. I'll give you an example. I worked with a gentleman who wanted to buy his company. And so he was working for his company. He was making good money, top salesperson. Came into the company in the lower levels of sales, and then took over completely the sales department. Well, he said, I want to buy my company. $50 million company, didn't make that much money to just go ahead and purchase it. So I said, let's work on something. Let's work on it. And I would meet with him on the phone. I'd say, let's do this. So you're gonna be the CEO of this company. How do you wake up? And so my question, the first thing you say, well, I just wake up. And I'm like, no, no, no. You're no longer waking up as the guy that makes the money you make now. Now we're going to talk about the guy who owns this company. And how do you wake up? What kind of alarm clock do you use? What kind of bed do you sleep in? What kind of house do you live in? What kind of toothbrush do you use? Do you use electric toothbrush or one of those, right, whatever it is? What kind of toothpaste do you use? And so what I'm doing is I'm making him think about the lifestyle. And every time he thinks about the lifestyle, the vision of it or the picture that I want you to feed yourself is now getting very clear to him. He's getting crystal clear in what he looks like in the future. And that's an aspect that people don't have. They have a hope of the future, but they don't have a very clear picture of what you look like in that moment, in that picture, in that future. So what do you look like in the picture, in the future? So the picture you're giving is your future, the perfect destination. What does it look like? We're going across this trail that we're creating to go over here because we're going to a pond and we want to go riding around in a little boat. Okay, so we know, man, when we get to the boat, this is what we're going to do. What we're going to do, we're going to do this. And I'm going to take a couple of rocks, really flat ones. I'm going to skip them across the pond and it's going to be so great. Right. And then that's what we're doing. And we're going through all this imagination. We have lost that somewhere in our adulthood, that we don't sit there and go, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go and get excited about this and excited. And we don't give ourselves that. So that starts our meditation. Then the meditation comes to, okay, so I'm in that day. I'm 2 years from now. I'm 1 year from now. I'm living in this. How do I wake up? What do I do? And so we went all the way down to the car. You get in the car, you drive. It's 45-minute drive. You get out of the car. Now you're coming to your office. You're going to walk into the office. I've been to the office. I know exactly what you walk to. What are you going to do first? Well, I'm going to go in my office. No, there's a receptionist there. How do you greet her now that you're the CEO compared to when you are the salesperson? That has to change. Those can't be the same. You can't stay the same. Unless you've been acting like a CEO the whole time, you've now got to act like a CEO in your mind. So we go through each one. And if you can allow the patience, right? If you can allow yourself to be patient with it, if you can give yourself as close to not minute by minute, but really just details, just exact details in the description, in the picture. and speaking it out. You have to speak it. So I'm walking down the hallway right now, and I see Susan, and Susan is wearing, she's wearing a flowery dress. So I'm going to say, Susan, you look great. This is a beautiful day. How are you enjoying the weather? I'm going to go through all of those things that I'm talking out, right? And so that's where your pictures and your words start to connect, and it gives you that seal of approval, as well as the action and the energy to go for it. And I say approval because a lot of people don't have approval in themselves for the place that they want to go. And so the more you
Mm.
rehearse it to yourself, give yourself approval. I am approved by it. So if people are like, yeah, you could do it. How many times have you been in a situation where someone says, that's totally you. You could do it. And you're like, yeah, I can. And you walk away, and you need to give yourself approval. You need to say, yes, I can do it. I can make this happen. And so the more we can do that, the better it is for us to revolve. But it gives permission to us to be who we are supposed to be, who God made us to be.
Yeah, that's huge. And I guess in a sense, I knew I was doing those things with my patients, but hearing you talk about it, it's definitely crystal clear. And I think that's huge for anyone listening with like health challenges, is get in an environment or get with people who keep encouraging you to see out of your current situation and into where you want to go. Because people will even, come in and they're like super sick at that moment. I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do when this changes? And where's your
Exactly.
next step and where's your next thing? And they're like,
Exactly.
well, I can't even get out of my mind of like the next hour. So that's
Exactly.
huge.
Well, and if I can just tell a couple of stories, I mean, there's two really fresh ones, but I'll tell this one. Yesterday, we received a video of a guy that so I'm an ordained minister. So I was in an area of Washington, and someone says, well, can you talk to this gentleman? He's in a wheelchair. He's been in a wheelchair for a few years. And he is, they don't know what's his circumstance. They don't know why he's in the wheelchair. He came back from, I think, Iraq, and he was not able, he woke up one morning and just wasn't able to walk. Confined, lost all use, arms, everything, and has to be completely nurtured. And so I went over to talk to him,
Mhm.
a couple things. Of course, I'm a minister, so I offer prayer right away. Prayer is much meditation as anything. It's comforting, it's encouraging, it's strengthening. And then I said something there. I said, okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to wake up every day, and I want you in the morning to say, thank you that I'm healed. And then I want you to go to bed, and I want you to say, thank you that I'm healed. And the reason I'm
Mhm.
doing this is because I want him to see himself healed. Because as I'm talking to him, he doesn't see himself healed. He sees his
Mhm.
circumstances. And so
Mhm.
that was in May of this year. And then the month and a half later, he went from a wheelchair to his arms moving, which allowed him to get on a walker. And so he went to a walker. Now this is now I'm giving him the meditation. I want him to be thankful. Now you can't say thank you without seeing yourself. So another thing about thank you, you
Yeah.
can't say thank you without seeing yourself in a circumstance, or without seeing yourself better, right? The thank you is a positive expression. So the moment he's saying thank you, he is now seeing himself healed. He sees himself, and it allows whatever nerves need to be active, whatever needs to happen in his body. It allows his body to cooperate with God, because God made him a walking person, right? It allowed everything to cooperate, and then he finds himself 3 months later walking, and he sent a video where he's back at work. They said he would never work again. He had to go into they want him to go into a nursing home that he was going to spend the rest of his life. He's in his, I think he's in his late 30s, mid 30s. They was
Wow.
just spend the rest of his life there. And because he did take on autosuggestion, take on a level of deeper thinking, metacognition, and his body was in cooperation, it allowed God to work. It allowed his body to work. It allowed everything to come in alignment. Yesterday, he sends a video of him walking down at work, walking down the hallway back and forth,
Come on.
showing his feet, showing his legs. And what I was really most impressed with is when he went back to his seat, because his body is still getting strong. So he is his legs have been atrophied for a long time. His muscles have been atrophied. So
Sure.
his muscles are growing and gaining strength again, and returning to strength. So he's walking, you know, not as like fast. He's not running yet, but he'll be running because he's still doing the same process, still revolving in his mind that he's this is who he is. Then he goes to
Right.
sit down and he's still filming himself and he sits down and I'm thinking he's going to sit down with a plot, but he sits down and is nice and gentle. That means he has so much strength in his legs that he's able to sit down. Whatever was bothering him is not bothering him. And so it's really, I was really excited about it. We've had people with cancer, the same thing. Listen, I want you to say thank you that you're healed for the next 30 days. Well, the cancer dissolves. I did it with my mom. My mom's not a believer like I am. And so I just did my mom. I said, Mom, this is what you're gonna do. You wake up every morning and my first question is always, what are you gonna live? What are you gonna do? Like you said, what are you gonna do when the cancer's gone? That's, you have to get into
Mm-hmm.
that destination. Be in the pond. We're gonna skip some rocks. We're gonna now all of that's got to be a part of your getting free, right? This is what you're gonna do. And then my mom got healed of cancer. So we've seen this over and over and over. A lady with MS, another story. What are you going to do when you're
Yes.
healed of MS? Okay, this is the destination. We're going to go across this. We're going to skip the rocks. We're going to do all this stuff, right? And then they're going to be, and then we get them dreaming. We get them dreaming. A lot of people don't dream anymore, but if you can get them dreaming of what it's going to be like, what it's going to look like, how it's going to feel, then we can get the rest happening.
Yes, those are amazing stories. I hope people are capturing these pearls because these are pearls that you can take with you today. You can use these things, you can use these concepts to think on higher thoughts. And coming back to just meditation too. So the key things are think on higher thoughts, but also
Yeah.
you were talking about really be creative with it,
Yes.
like your
Yes.
examples of being a CEO or a billionaire example. So make it creative. Don't just stop of, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow. Like make that meditation really creative to
Yes.
start changing those patterns in your brain.
Yeah. And as often as you can feed it, as often you can do it. If you can in the morning and in the evening is what I usually try to encourage people to do. In the morning, spend a little time meditating on who you are, what you're going to be. If you're dealing with anxiety, like the gentleman, before we started to work on his CEO position, just being a salesperson. When I first connected with him, he was a salesperson that would go into these big sales meetings. Before he'd go in, he'd throw up. He'd throw up. He was so nervous, so intimidated. So we had to spend time just working on what are you thinking about? What are you really thinking about when before you go in? Because you're thinking about something. It's never that we're not thinking. People say, "Oh, I'm not thinking about anything," but you are. You're thinking about, why am I thinking about that? Why am I thinking about the bird? Why am I thinking about the right? You're always thinking. But the fact is when we can intentionally think and then even ask the metacognition question, why am I thinking about this? What is this? Why am I thinking like this? And then when you do that, then you
Mm-hmm.
can dial in. And when you're getting sick or you're feeling uncomfortable in a place, you may feel like I have imposter syndrome. That's another thing metacognition works on. So I have imposter syndrome. I feel like I don't belong here. I'm in a place that I shouldn't be. I feel like I'm a pretender. Well, why? It's because you've meditated on something. You've given your meditation to a fact that you're not real. And this is that you're not
Mm-hmm.
talented, you're not skilled, you don't have the ability. Everyone else is better than you. It's a self-defeating, right? All of that is a cognition, a meta. That's a deeper thinking about yourself that you've given yourself to. And when you can change that thinking about yourself, you can change the way you interact with the world. Now you build efficacy, you build the ability to bring about change, to make change happen. And the only reason we feel like imposters is because we don't really see ourselves in that room. So spend some time seeing yourself in that room. And then if I find myself in the room, there's two things I'll say. I'm in this room. I'm in this room for a reason. I belong in this room. That's one of the things. I belong in this room, and I have something to add to this room, right? And that's important to know that. And then the other thing, if I'm really struggling, then I have this declaration: I am enough. And just knowing that you're enough of whatever for whatever that comes your way is going to be a deeper thinking about your thinking. And it changes a lot when you start to ask yourself, why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this? So if I feel uncomfortable, you know that your biochemistry is going off, your hands are sweaty, you're starting to get nervous. That tells you that there's something happening in your emotions, that's happening in your brain. They're not meeting, they're not congruent. What's the incongruency? Why do I feel this way? Well, the incongruency comes back to the fact that you think a certain way about yourself, and you think the way about them, the people that you're with. And these people make you feel that way because you don't feel like you belong. And so you have to, I'm
Mhm.
enough, or I belong here, whatever it may be. And then work that real quick. Go to the bathroom if you have to. I belong, I belong. What are you gonna do? You don't have time for repetition. So you got to go, and you got to do it with power, and you got to do it with authority, right? You have to, I belong here. And that means, so I will snap my fingers. That snap gets it in my nervous system real fast. I belong here, right? I belong here. That snap is activating my nervous system with a statement, a feeling. It writes it quicker. We can go through all this. We can come back to this another day, but it writes it quicker into your being, because you're actually adding the intensity of a snap. It could be a clap, it could be a pop, it could be whatever. You're writing your nervous system real quickly with the right words, and you're giving yourself a different picture. Not, I don't belong here. Why am I here? I feel so uncomfortable. None of those are wrong pictures. All those words are creating pictures. I say elephant, you see an elephant. Some people don't, but most people do. But if you say, I belong here, you see yourself mingling, you see yourself talking, you see yourself having a good time. And then if you want to make it quick, to activate some physiology, clap, woo,
Yeah.
the Superman pose, the Superwoman pose, right? Whatever that is, add all that to it, and it activates something in your being, and helps you, helps it move it quicker into you.
Yes, I love this topic or this part because the biology of the body, it will always try to talk you out of it. And that's the
Yes.
same as you're talking about in like, speaking or business, the same as far as like how you feel. Feelings are information, but feelings aren't facts. So if we are healed but we feel a certain symptom, people will automatically like go into, and your biology will talk you out of it, like, no, I can't be better because I'm still feeling this way. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
I love those concepts that you're talking about, of use something not only neurologically, like physical, to snap your body out of it, but also
Yes.
begin to rewrite those things, because you recognize your feelings, but you also recognize that your biology hasn't caught up with, or your biology is here and your metacognition is here, and they
Yeah.
have to be married together.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. Wonderful. And I think it's really powerful, because a lot of times your body, when you are healed, so I say if I've twisted back, I get adjusted, man, I feel a little bit more pain. Why I feel more pain? Well, it's because now your body's coming back in alignment. Now everything's in alignment. Now the correction, the pain is the correction, right? Now the pain is the fact that you're getting healthy. So some people will say, I still feel pain, or I feel discomfort, I feel this, but it's changing, because we've fixed the problem, right? We've corrected the issue, and now your body's got to come back in alignment. You're what you felt before was uncomfortable, and so now we're going to go back to comfort. I love that.
Yeah, one thing I always have people do, like whenever we're doing anything, is I have them go take a walk. So I'm like, go
Oh,
take a
good.
walk, come back,
That's that.
and then tell me how you feel. Because they have to get out of that, where
Uh,
they were in this moment. And then they can come back and then they can say, oh, yeah, this feels differently or this feels differently. So it's then kind of putting and marrying those two things together as well. And I don't remember who taught me that, but someone taught me that along the way. And I just adapted that because I'm like, no, you got to make now the physical change of it, as we've now changed some of that interlaying information going on. So
that's
I
awesome.
didn't know that's what
That's
I was doing, but that's what I was doing. All the things we learn along the way.
that's outstanding.
Uh, okay, well, we've talked about some great things, and I think you've given us some great topics about like spending time dialing in that data, right? So, spending time in the scenarios, being creative, doing the work of that, what you need to do to really be able to change the data. Now, I guess, I mean, everybody's going to be different, but how long would you say, maybe in your experience of working with people, And you can talk about the experience that you also had in the case that you had of the guy that was stuttering. I remember you talking about that example too, and how this process actually changed him and he doesn't stutter anymore. So obviously
Yes.
people are going to have different timeline, but in your experience, how long would you say, and obviously this is an ongoing process of different depths, but maybe like a simple thing, what would be a timeline that you would want to see something changes if people are really doing the work for that?
If they're really doing the work, and again, like you said, the timelines are different, but if they're really doing the work, then that means their neurological levels are changing. They're changing at their neurological levels. They're changing at their deeper thought levels. So their actions are going to be changing along the way. I'm
Mhm.
always I plan for a 6 month goal. My goals are always 6 months. I try not to hit 6 months with the goal. I want to see transition faster. The gentleman who wanted to go from the person who was working the company, owning the company, that was we planned a year. We hit that in 6 months. So it's all depending on how much pain and how much pleasure is associated to it. So with the gentleman who was stuttering, it was a lot of pain in stuttering. I mean, there's people. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't even know how to describe the level of pain that people feel when they have a stuttering
Hmm.
problem, when they have a challenge with having to finish, and then people finishing for them. It just or making people feeling like they're waiting, right? There's just a lot of discomfort in this world. And then feeling like he was so limited that with his communication that all he could do was drive a big, um, those diggers, like dirt movers, just in one of those all day, not communicating to anyone because that's where he felt like he could. He was a smart guy, intelligent person, but the only limit was his communication. So some people, if a pain, I mean, I've seen people like that I've never worked with, but I've seen other coaches get people through this in a day. I mean, like really just break it. Um,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of rewriting. I mean, and it's quick, but it's associated to the level of pain and pleasure that's associated. So, how much pleasure to getting to the goal do you have? And how much pain is this? So, how fast do you want to move away from the pain? If you're going to lollygag, then it's going to take you longer. But if you really want to get away from the pain and get into the pleasure, then a person can do it pretty quickly. They can have that kind of transformation. I usually, if we're talking about someone coming from MS, I mean, I told her 30 days, just say thank you for 30 days. We're going to see this change. It happened in 10 days, right? So 10 days, she went back to the doctor. The lesions in her brain were completely gone, right? So these things, and I believe, again, God has made our body to recover. God is
Yeah.
interactive in this. And so I believe that if we actually work quickly on ourselves, then it allows everything that we have been designed to do to come to pass real quick. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it is associated to the level of pain. So what I have to often do is I have to increase the pain, not just, but just like turn the knife is what we just make sure that we don't just make, okay, yeah, you're dealing with something. No, we're going to ask, if you stay like this, what's going to happen? How are you going to feel? If this doesn't change, what's going to happen? How are you going to
Mm.
feel in 10 years? How are you going to feel in 5 months? How are you going to feel in two? So we're going to turn the knife. We're going to make sure that they really feel, if I stay like this, I don't know what I'm going to do. If this is how it's going to be, this is just that person is a person ready for me to work with. Person goes, I think I'd be
Yeah.
okay. I think I just, that person is not there yet. So we got to turn the knife a little bit more. We turn the knife, and then if we can get the pain level, again, the pain is a motivation to leave something. Pleasure is a motivation to arrive, and so we need to both have the leaving and the arriving. So if you leave this, where are you going to arrive to? And so if we can get those things really, the excitement of where they're going to arrive and the pain level of where they're going to leave, we can do it pretty quickly. We can get 2 weeks. We can get results pretty fast. We're talking about a person coming out of a wheelchair, right? We're talking about, again, that's interactive with God. We did pray, and we did ask the Lord to ask God to get involved. But
Mhm.
without the meditation, without his involvement, it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. You got to sanctify and cleanse it for sure.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could say personally for myself too, the timeline depends. some people, if they've had it for a really long time, it
Yeah.
could possibly take some time to get those
Well,
negative thoughts and think of those higher things.
well, and that's exactly the key. It's if they had it for a time. So when a person says to me, oh, I've been everywhere, I've been to every doctor, I've had this kind of thing, I've been to all kinds of coaches, and they say I've been,
Mm-hmm.
been to faith healers, and I'll say, oh, what's your situation? And I'll say, oh, that's easy. I immediately interrupt their pattern because they're wanting me to go,
Yeah.
oh yeah, you've had a long time. That's been no, that's easy. This is going to be done quickly, and that's when it happens quickly because they're like, first they're looking at me going, you're either crazy or you know something. Which one is it? So you're going to have to find out either I'm crazy or I know something, and so that opens them up. And so
Yeah.
if a person can come to this, really, it's going to be easy. Interrupt the pattern. Don't be intimidated to go, I'm changing this today. I went from being someone who was, what I call a procrastinating, drug taking, doing nothing with my life to one day asking one simple question. I wonder what it's like to be a go getter, right? I wonder what it's like to be a go getter. That question changed my mind. Now I went from that
Mm-hmm.
day forward, went to pursue everything. Then I ended up becoming ordained minister. And, all my life transitioned, but it started with one thought, one question. And so really the change happens when you ask the right question. And it will start to happen quickly after that.
You ask the question, but also you take action, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's that part, but the action part of it is also key because, like, this is kind of also, yeah, this is also like in the principle of like the quantum and what people talk about the quantum too, where it's like you see yourself and then you become that person, you know? And so it's
Yeah.
so knitly tied into what we're talking about. And so yes, you gotta put things into auto suggestion for sure, but you also have to create action on it and do those things for it to
Yeah.
happen as well.
Yeah, and as we opened up, we talked about the fact that when you're building auto suggestion, it's going to work on your values. Now you're going to value things differently, and the values are going to set your beliefs. Your beliefs now function; they are the reason you start to take action. You believe differently. So auto suggestion,
Yeah.
values, belief, and then actions, and then results. So that five stages are really the whole thing. And but action, you can't have results without action, and you don't do any actions you don't believe in, right? So that it's very important that we build to that place of action, because action is the only way we get the results we want.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is just amazing. This is astounding. I'm sure we could talk about this stuff all day long. In closing, for our listeners, what are, and you've already explained some of these, but if you could maybe like condense it, what would you say are some daily actions to stay consistently motivated for people?
Motivated. Well, consistently motivated is another good conversation, because it does deal with your auto suggestion and deal with your metacognition as well. It's what you're telling yourself. And part of your motivation is what you're saying to yourself, what you're speaking to yourself. I'm so tired. Are you really? I mean, could you, if I said to you today and you're saying, I'm so tired or I'm so busy, I can't do anything else. If I said, oh, listen, Dr. Rachel, listen, we're taking a whole group to Hawaii, and I need you to clear your calendar for the next 3 days. I know you're tired, but do you think you want to jump? I got a plane. We're ready to go right now. What do you think? I mean, their energy is coming right now. Energy is happening right now, because it's all dependent on what we're telling ourselves. We start thinking about Hawaii. We start thinking about, okay, what we're going to do. We're going to go on the beach. We're going to have fun, but I'm going to have you on the stage. You're going to speak, right? There's going to be so much activity. We're going to see thousands of people there. It's going to be fun. Now that right there has overcome my tired, right? That has overcome my tired,
Mhm.
because I'm telling myself something completely different. So what do you tell yourself when you wake up in the morning? When you wake up in the morning, do you have a spring in your step, or you are like, I'm not a morning person? Well, if you say you're not a morning person, you will never be a morning person. But you have to see yourself as a morning person. You have to give yourself a reason to get up. And if you give yourself a reason to get up, you'll spring up. I'm not a person who sleeps long. But I had to tell myself, I went from 12 hours to 5 hours. I went up to a mountain. I declared a war on leisure. I said, I declare war on leisure. And I yelled from this mountaintop. And from that day forward, I went from 12-hour sleeper to a 5-hour sleeper. I'm like, okay, well, I've seen these things. I've experienced these things. So it's what you're telling yourself. If you're not a motivated person, you're telling yourself you're not motivated, or you're telling yourself what you do isn't motivating. Whatever you're doing, whatever your activities are, whatever you're engaged in is not enough for you to get up and to get spring going. So you have to build in yourself a starting ritual, a ritual, that a declaration of statement of what you're going to do and why you're going to do it, how you're going to do it, whatever it may be. A countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is a starting ritual, right? So a count up is not a starting ritual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's two. You can keep on counting. So you count down to 0, or you see a liftoff for a rocket. SpaceX is sending something up. I don't know if they still do it, but 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? 0 launch. That immediately builds in us a motivation. When I was in a real strong season of procrastination, I had a starting ritual. My starting ritual was based upon a book that I read, Who Moved My Cheese? And the question in Who Moved My Cheese was, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Because I knew my procrastination was associated to fear. And so I would sit up in the morning. First thing I'd do is I'd ask myself, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And my part of my ritual is the first thought that comes to me after asking that question is what I'm going to do. Now, one of the reasons I have you ask lots of questions is because you can't have a question asked without you answering. If I ask you a question today, if several times we've asked questions to the audience, well, they either say yes or no, because even though they're not in the room with us, because you can't have a question offered to you without you answering it. So I asked myself a question: what would you do if you weren't afraid? Well, immediately I get up and make that phone call. Okay, boom. And then that's where my action starts. As soon as the penny drops on the answer of that question, my action starts, and I go towards it I just throw myself at it like a little toddler with a big head just trying to learn to walk. I just throw myself at it, and I just let my head lead me, and I'm just like, lead me into it, and next thing you know, I'm there, right? So that's what we have to do. Is we have to, when you get the answer to it, you just lean your head forward like a big toddler, and you're learning to walk, and you just go right into it before you know how to say stop, right? So that's going to be important, is to actually put yourself in a position where you have statements that get you moving. I like questions. Some people like the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and that's a good, at 1, 0, you got to do something. What are we going to do now? A countdown always brings you to an action, so you have to do something. So those are a couple of key factors of getting motivated, but making sure that you have some reason to walk through all the problems and the sticker bushes and the nettles to get to the lake over here, to go and throw some. We're going to throw some rocks across the lake. Well, that's got to be so enjoyable and so exciting that you're willing to go through anything, and that's a motivator.
Wow. Yeah, this is amazing. I hope everybody captured today what we were talking about, because this is probably one of the most, I think, important thing that holds people back in their life.
Yes.
Mental cognition part is just like, it doesn't matter what it is. We're talking about health, anything in your life. Like, this is such a huge principle to get you to succeed in your life. So I hope you guys capture this. I hope you guys share this and you send it to people who are maybe stuck in certain areas of their life or their health or something. Share like these resources. And Tracey, I know that you mentioned a little bit, you have a new book coming out next month. You have some training programs, as well as the Kingmaker. So you can plug yourself a little bit for the next couple of moments. I will give all the details of it in the bio of the podcast today, but we'd love to help support you too for taking the time. So why don't you talk a little bit about where people can find those resources?
Well, excellent. Well, you can connect with me on Instagram, Tracey Armstrong. That's a good way to connect with me, Tracey Armstrong on Instagram. I think the thing that I really am into right now is the Kingmaker process. The Kingmaker process is 10 steps. Part of this is auto suggestion, how to make sure that you you deal with setting yourself up for success. That's you can go to thekingmaker.school, and that will open you up to so many things. And my website is traceyarmstrong.com. You can find lots of free things. I give away so many free resources that are available there. And influencersaccelerator.global, if you're a faith-based person and you are interested in wealth creation, that's something that's a part of that. But I think the kingmaker.school is something that I'm most excited about in this season, because it's my new project. It's my new coaching system and I've used all of the things that I'm teaching in the Kingmaker is what I help these people with that I mentioned, like the millionaire who wanted to buy his business, and I took him through the process of the 10 pillars of becoming a kingmaker.
Outstanding. Well, we thank you again so much for your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. And make sure you go follow him. He has tons of free resources, like he said, so take advantage of those. And we love you guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Unfiltered Healing Podcast. Have a great rest of your day.